Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says we must know how to depend for everything and in everything on the Divine. He alone can surmount all difficulties with love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the collective works of our Divine Mother, Question and Answers, Volume 8, date 1st Feb 1956, page 1. Question. Sweet Mother, Sri Aurobindo writes here, it is possible indeed to begin with knowledge or Godward, emotion slowly, or with both together, and to leave works for the final moment of the integral yoga in the book Synthesis of Yoga, page 86. What is this knowledge, sweet Mother? For this, our Divine Mother says there are three principal paths of yoga. There are three principal paths of yoga in integral yoga: the path of knowledge, the path of love, and the path of works. So, Sri Aurobindo says that it depends on each case and person. Some people follow more easily the path of knowledge, others follow more easily the path of love, of devotion, and others follow the path of works. He says that for the integral yoga, the three must be combined and with them something else, but that everybody can't do everything at the same time, and that there are people who need to be exclusive and to choose one of the three paths first in order to be able to combine them all later. Our Divine Mother says the path of knowledge is the well-known path of Raja Yoga, in which one practices detachment from one's physical being, saying, I am not the body. Then detachment from one's sensations, I am not my sensations. Then from one's feelings, saying, I am not my feelings, and so on. One detaches oneself from thought and gets more and more within until one finds something which is eternal and infinite. In the path of meditation, which is truly the path of self-knowledge, seen from the point of view of the divine reality, it is the path of meditation, concentration, of withdrawal from life and action. This was one of the most practiced in the old yogas, or else the path of devotion and love like that of Chaitanya or Ramakrishna.
Inébranlable en ta victoire. Glory to thee, O Lord, Supreme Master of all realization. Give us a faith active and ardent, absolute and unshakable in thy victory.
Our Divine Mother says this book, part 1 of the Synthesis of Yoga, is entirely about the yoga of works, of action, that is to say, the finding of union with the Divine in action and work, and in the consecration of one's work to the Divine. That's all. Question, sweet Mother. The consecration of works is a needed element in that change. Otherwise, although they may find God in other life, they will not be able to fulfill the divine in life. stated in the book Synthesis of Yoga in page 85. Sweet Mother, why these two words, God and Divine? Why these two words, God and the Divine? For this, a Divine Mother says, I don't think that Sri Aurobindo contrasts them. This is only a way of speaking. He does not set one against the other. What does it mean, sweet mother? For this, a Divine Mother says, it means that they go out of existence to find the divine, to find God, a God who is outside life. They themselves go outside life to find Him. While in the integral yoga, it is in life that the divine must be found, not outside life. There are those, for instance, who consider life and the world as an illusion and think it is necessary to leave them behind in order to find the divine, whose nature, they say, is the opposite of that of existence. So, Sri Aurobindo says that perhaps they will find God outside life but will not find the divine in life. He contrasts the two things. In one case, it is an extraterrestrial and unmanifested divine, and in the other, it is the divine who is manifested in life and whom one can find again through life. Do you catch the point? Asks a Divine Mother. The child says, Sweet Mother, when one is identified with the divine in the higher part of the being while neglecting the lower parts, neglecting life, doesn't the divine in the part where one is identified with him advise one to attend to the lower parts? For this, our Divine Mother says, and if before even beginning one has decided that this must not happen, perhaps one makes it impossible for oneself to receive the advice of the divine. For, truly speaking, each one finds only what he wants to find of the divine. Sri Aurobindo has said this by turning it the other way around. He has said, I am not quoting the exact words, only the idea. What you expect from the divine is what you find in the divine. What you want from the divine is what you meet in the divine. He will have for you the aspect you expect or desire. And his manifestation is always adapted to each one's receptivity and capacity. They may have a real and essential contact, but this contact is limited by their own capacity for receiving an approach. It is only if you are able to go out of all limits that you can meet the total divine as He totally is. Our Divine Mother says, and this capacity for contact is perhaps what constitutes the true hierarchy of beings. For everyone carries within himself the divine, therefore everyone has the possibility of union, of meeting or uniting with the divine. That possibility is the same in all, but according to one's capacity, in fact, according to his position in the divine hierarchy, his approach will be more or less partial or total. It could be said, although these words deform things a lot, that the quality of the approach is the same in every being, but the quantity, the totality, is very different. It is very difficult to explain in words, says our Divine Mother. But if one may say so, the point at which you are identified with the divine is perfect in itself. That is to say, your identification is perfect in itself at this point, but the number of points at which you are identified differs immensely. And this is very marked in the difference between the paths followed to approach the divine. Usually, people set limits. They limit themselves by excluding everything that is not exactly the path they have chosen, for this is much easier they go much faster relatively. But if instead of following one road, you go forward in a sort of moment which could be called spherical, where everything is included, which takes in all the possibilities of approach to the divine, naturally the result is much more complete. And it is this that Sri Aurobindo calls the integral yoga, but the progress is much more difficult and much more slower. Our Divine Mother says, one who chooses the path of knowledge, and even in the path of knowledge, a special method, for everyone has his own method and follows it, eliminating from his consciousness and life all that's not it, advances much more rapidly, for he is in search of only one aspect, and this is much more direct, immediate. And so he rejects all that is not this, and limits his being just to the path he travels. And the more you want your approach to be integral, naturally, the more it will be difficult, complicated, long, laborious. But he who follows only one path, when he reaches his goal, that is, when he is identified with the divine, his identification is perfect in itself. That is to say, it is really an identification with the divine, but it's partial. It is perfect, and partial at the same time. This is very difficult to explain, but it is a fact. He has identified with the divine, but at one point, and so he who is able to identify himself in his totality with the divine is necessarily, from the point of view of the universal realization, on a much higher level of hierarchy than one who could realize him only at a single point. Our Divine Mother says, and that is the true meaning of the spiritual hierarchy. That is why there is a whole spiritual hierarchical organization. Otherwise, it would have been no basis. For from the minute you touch the divine, from the minute you touch the divine, you touch him perfectly. The point at which you touch him is perfect in itself. And from this point of view, all who are united with the divine are equally perfect in their union, but equally complete, if I may say so. Do you catch a little of it, what I mean? Says our Divine Mother. The child continues to ask Sweet Mother, what I wanted to ask Sweet Mother was whether in the part where they are identified, after their identification with the divine, they don't find that this identification is not complete. That is, that they have left behind other parts of their being and that they must begin once again. For this, our Divine Mother smiles and says, this may happen. This may happen, but usually they have so well eliminated from themselves all that was not that nothing remains for them to realize that the identification is not perfect. They have the experience of identification, they are lost in the divine. From the personal, individual point of view, that is the most they can hope for. It is not what you say is impossible. Indeed, I think it is possible, but it is rare. It is not frequent. That would mean that, in spite of their work of elimination, they have retained in their consciousness something which would be able to feel that they are not entirely satisfied. And Divine Mother says, after the identification, there is no longer the position, for example, of master and disciple, lord and the aspirant. At the moment of identification, that relationship disappears. There is no longer any master or disciple, any lord or aspirant. all is the divine. So, who receives the lesson? That could only happen if there were an element of consciousness which does not participate in this identification because it needed another approach than the one it had. And all would depend on how perfectly the aspirant has eliminated from his being all that was nothing to do with the exclusive path he follows. Let me repeat. And all would depend on how perfectly the aspirant has eliminated from his being all that has nothing to do with the exclusive path he follows. For instance, if he keeps latent in his consciousness elements of devotion or love, then if he has followed the path of knowledge, well, at the time of identification, these will miss something. And then he will be able to understand that his experience is not complete. But if they have been so well eliminated that they no longer exist, then who will notice that the union is not perfect? The union is perfect in itself at this particular point. It is purely a phenomenon of consciousness. Then, turning to the child, our Divine Mother says, in your consciousness, there is still the idea that you unite with something which knows more about it than you and will make you recognize your mistake. But that no longer exists after the identification. That is just the first contact, but not the identification. In identification, there is no longer any difference between the one who is identified and what he is identified with. It is the same thing. So long as there is a difference, it is not identification. A Divine Mother says, I say that by any path, whatever, and by eliminating all that is not of this path, it is possible for each one to be perfectly identified with the divine, that is to say, to be the divine, but at only one point, the point he has chosen. But this point is perfect in itself. I do not say it contains everything. I say it is perfect in itself. That is, the identification is perfect, but it is not total. For this, the child says, they have the full bliss, Divine Mother. For this, our Divine Mother says, perfect bliss, eternity, infinity, everything. Then the child says again, sweet Mother, then what's the difference? For this, our Divine Mother says, my dear child, the difference exists only in the manifestation. By this identification, whatever it may be, one automatically goes out of the manifestation except at the point where one is identified. And if in the path one has followed, the aim is to go out, as for instance with those who seek nirvana. If it is going out of the manifestation, well, one goes out of the manifestation, it's an end. And once one goes out of the manifestation, there is no longer any difference or any hierarchy. It is finished. One has gone out of the manifestation. That is it. You understand? Everything depends on the goal one pursues. If one goes out of the manifestation, then there is no longer a possibility of hierarchy at all. But as soon as one enters the manifestation, there is a hierarchy. That is to say, that if we take the realization of the supramental world, everybody will not be on the same level and made in the same pattern and with the same capacity and possibility. It is always this illusion, isn't it? Of a sort of indefinite reception, of a sort of indefinite repetition of something which always resembles itself. It is not that. In the realization, the manifestation, there is a hierarchy of capacity and action and of manifestation, but If the aim is to go out of the manifestation, then quite naturally, at whatever point you go out, you go out. It all depends on the ideal one puts before oneself. And while you go out, because you have chosen to do so, to enter into Pralaya, there is all the rest of the universe which continues. But that's totally immaterial to you, as your aim was to get out of it. You got out of it. But that doesn't mean that the rest also go out. You are the only one to go out, and those who followed the same aim and the same path as you. And then there's a long silence, and then our Divine Mother continues. That is precisely the problem which faced Sri Aurobindo here and me in France. Should one limit one's path and reach the goal first, and later take up all the rest and begin the work of integral transformation? Or should one go step by step, not leaving anything aside, not eliminating anything on the path, taking in all the possibilities at the same time, progressing at all points at the same time? That is to say, should one retire from life and action until one reaches one's goal, become conscious of the supermind and realize it in oneself? Or should one embrace the entire creation and with this entire creation gradually go forward towards the supermind? Again, there is a silence. And then our Divine Mother says, one can understand that things get done by stages. You go forward, reach one stage, and so as a consequence, take all the rest forward. Then, at the same time, in a simultaneous moment, you reach another stage and again take others forward, and so on. That gives the impression that you're not moving, but everything is on the move in this way. That's all, says our Divine Mother. For this, the child says, Sweet Mother, I would rather we didn't fall back into inessentials. If you have understood what I said, it is about what you want to ask a question, ask it. The child says no. For that, our Divine Mother says, well, then it would be better to meditate.